Kia ora mai rā tātou. Tēnā hoki rā kōtou ko tā mai tēnei rā, te tautoko te kaupapa o te rā. Koe ne te mihi kia kōtou katoa. Nau mai, haere mai, hara mai ki runga tēnei āhuatanga i mai nia tātou. E te mea, ko tā mai rā kōtou, i runga tauranga mōna. Te kuratini o poike, ko ki te ake nā mahi pai ki rungi a rātou katoa, no re tēnā kōtou, kia ora tātou katoa. Me nui rā tātou. Hei uhoa ngā mano ta matua tamata wairua tapu me ngā ana herapoto mangai. Kia ta tūmana koutou i waini tā mātou whakamamiti mo tēnei rā. Hei tātari ngā kupu katoa e whakapakinu mo tātou katoa. E tūmana ko rā i rato tō koutou kurorietanga. E te manga e ngā ana herapono. Me te ataka mai tō koutou arahano ki rungi a mātou. Kia haere paitonu mo mātou kōrero i tēnei pō. Pa here tōkara mātou i rato te rangi mātia i nā wākatoa. Māno te manga hei tōtoko mai, ane akane ai. Kia ora tātou.
Please be seated. Ko te pai tawhiti ki me hea ki e mau, ko te pai tāta whakamaua ki a tīna, humi e hui e, tae ki e. Kia ora hui mā tātou, e nā rangatira tēnā koutou. Nā mai haramai ki tēnā kura te kuratini o Puiki. Welcome everyone to this evening's graduation ceremony for the School of Business Studies. Haramai e nā hoa, haramai e nā mātua, haramai e nā kaiako, haramai e nā tauira. Welcome to family, to friends, to the staff of Bay Plenty Polytechnic and this evening the School of Business Studies. And of course, most importantly, welcome to our students who are graduating this evening. Haramai e te manuhiri tuarangi, haramai e te whanau mo tēnei hikari. Special welcome to those who've had to travel from afar to be with us this evening. To all of you, welcome to our family and to our celebration. Just like to acknowledge that I'm joined on stage this evening by our Kamatua Wakataite and our Kuia Nareta Timu, by the staff of the School of Business Studies led by Dr. David Lyon, and two guests joined us on stage, John Tressler, the head of the Waikato Management School, and Paula Keats, who's the New Zealand president of the Society of Conveyancing, and a warm welcome to them. And I know we are joined in the audience by a number of members of the industry, the business and management fraternity, and sponsors of prizes, and I thank and welcome you to this event. Very few of us achieve much in life completely alone. So I think at the outset, I would like to recognise on behalf of our students 3 groups who I believe have probably been instrumental in them coming to this evening's conclusion and their qualification. And the first are family and friends who've been there to support, to encourage through the bad times and the good times. Secondly, the students' colleagues themselves. And hopefully, as a result of your time together, you've made some friendships that will indeed last a lifetime. And I do encourage you to try and maintain those connections and those links, because those friendships will become more and more valuable as time goes on. And thirdly, and it's the staff of the School of Business Studies, the Polytechnic is fortunate and privileged to have a high calibre of committed and professional academic and administrative staff. And I would ask you to join with me in recognising this evening the staff of the School of Business Studies, led by Dr. David Lyon. I'm just going to say a few words to our graduates about your success and why your success, and in particular the skills and abilities that you leave the Polytechnic with, are important for New Zealand Aotearoa. And then to just take you a little bit into the future and leave you with a couple of challenges. And perhaps one of those challenges might also include the rest of our audience this evening. In terms of your success, don't underestimate it. You know how hard you've worked. We do not give tertiary qualifications away. They are hard-earned by significant investment of time, commitment, and no little money. And therefore, be proud with what you've achieved. As you go across stage, you will feel from the audience, from your friends, from your family, that they are sharing in that pride. And I encourage you to actually acknowledge and recognise your pride in your graduates as they come across the stage. The skills that you have developed, the abilities, the attitude, the capabilities, are all very much needed by your country. And just say a couple of small things, observations, current issues, that hopefully will demonstrate how important the range of skills that are graduating this evening are. OECD is an organisation that for some 50 years now has been publishing performance data on some 34, 35 countries throughout the world, the developed world. And regularly they will give league tables of performance of countries. And not surprisingly, if you look up the tables for things like corruption, freedom of media, employment, human rights, you will find, and life expectancy, you will find that New Zealand rates very highly in those league tables. Unfortunately, where we do not rate highly is when we look at our productivity and our economic performance. And we can find some excuses and reasons for that. We can say we're only 4.3 million people at the bottom of the globe. We can talk about distance from market. We can talk about distance from technology changes as and when they happen. But the reality is that we have too low a productivity labour force. We need to significantly improve the value that we obtain from each hour that we commit to our employment. To do that will generate the profitability that enables people to have the confidence to invest. And if we can invest, then we will be able to generate better salaries, better wages, better productive outcome, and the consequence of that right through to healthcare and what the country can afford. The most immediate way of starting that change and that improvement is to invest in the skills of our people. There was a recent league table for global competitiveness, showed that New Zealand, in terms of attractiveness for competitiveness, business competitiveness, had climbed 5 places to something like 17th place. And if it's any consolation, Australia had dropped 1 place and was about 20th. But when we looked at that same league table, and it looked at a couple of parameters, the level of education of the workforce and innovation, we were down near the 30s. And in fact, in innovation, we were 1 place behind Puerto Rico. So the reality is that if we are to afford the lifestyle that we want, the society standards and support and caring that we want, we have to invest in our people, in their skills, and we also have to incentivize the investment in innovation and research. It's interesting if you look at the pace of technological change. It really has contributed to the fact that when I left university, and I won't say how many years ago, I was probably, if fortunate, I was looking at maybe 3-4 career changes or job changes in my lifetime. Nowadays, our graduates are probably looking at anything from 10 to 20 or more changes in their job, their occupation. And there's an emerging interest area which is called the green market jobs. And it is really around those areas where companies, employers are expected to show sustainability, responsibility for social, community and environment. And I saw the recordings of a couple of surveys just done last month, one in Canada, that showed that 70% of the survey said that they would want to work for a company or an organisation that in fact displayed and practiced consistently those community, social and environmental responsibilities. And a similar survey in the States, in the northeast of the States, had a similar response. 75% said that that sort of characteristic for companies was an important factor in deciding who to work for and who to put applications into. At this point in time, our government is trying to encourage a very rapid growth in oil and gas exploration. And that is taking place at quite a pace in Taranaki, in the Canterbury Basin, on the west and east of the North Island. And it is interesting that some of that development will in fact throw up some responsibility issues. One of the techniques that is being looked at there in order to release oil and gas in more effective rates to enable better profitability is called fracking. Now, fracking is simply drilling a deep well, pushing down it at high pressure, a fluid, which then comes out of the pipe and explodes the rock and releases the oil and gas that's contained in closed cells in the rock. Some of the consequences of that, and particularly evident over in the States where fracking is quite an established technique, is contamination of aquifers and also seismic activity. Now, in reality, there have also been 20 consents recently awarded in Taranaki for companies to do exploratory work using fracking. None of those 20 consents actually came to public notice. One might challenge the community, the social responsibility of our government in enabling decisions like that to be made. If you look at information communications technology, surprisingly to some, it is in fact the third largest export earner for New Zealand. Sitting at $7 billion a year, it is just behind dairy and tourism. And we have tremendous expertise and capability in ICT. 3 particular areas come to mind, and we will have probably experienced some of them ourselves. One is business and process software, particularly in the area of finance, human resources, marketing, logistics. The second one is in health software, enabling the delivery of medicines, but also enabling the functioning of medical devices. And the third one, which we've probably all experienced through either the Weta Studio or through the America's Cup, is our animation and gaming. Those are potential contributors to improve productivity for New Zealand. The domestic contribution of ICT industry to New Zealand is $20 billion a year. ICT in itself can be one of the engine drivers for the improved productivity and performance of our country. But it too requires investment in skills and investment in innovation and research. Move now to our graduates as you leave this evening with your new qualifications. And as I've said, don't underestimate those, be proud of them, and make them work for you. But also, this is only one step on your journey of learning, your career. And hopefully you will continue to upskill and improve your knowledge and capabilities. There is a quote that says, "Education is the most powerful weapon in the world for change." That's particularly appropriate this evening because the author of that quote was Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, Madiba, grew up in oppression and injustice. He went to prison in Robben Island for 27 years for his conviction and his values. When he emerged after 27 years incarceration, he subsequently became the first democratically elected president of South Africa. What he also emerged with was amazing forgiveness, amazing caring, strength, humility, and a vision for the unity of his rainbow nation. Someone said that he went into prison, and during that 27 years, the oppression and the injustice melted his courage with forgiveness. And from that, he forged reconciliation. And it was his ability to see and practice that reconciliation that took his country out of the abyss that he was facing. He leaves a towering legacy for leaders and for all of us, for generations to come. And I'd just like to give 3-4 very quick quotes from Madiba that are pertinent this evening. The first one is really to our government. And it says, even when there is severe fiscal austerity, education for your people is much, much, much more than just an expense. The second one is about our society. And he said that we owe it to our children, the most vulnerable members of our society, that they are able to live a life free from fear and violence. The third one was with regards to society, and it said social equality is the only basis on which human happiness can be found. And finally, one that said it all about Madiba, Nelson Mandela, And it was, do not judge me by my successes, but by the number of times I have fallen and got back up. You are graduating this evening. You will face many challenges in life. You will overcome those challenges because of belief and conviction in yourself. As graduates, you are now a role model for your friends, for your family, for your community. As to the power of tertiary education, be an influencer for people who maybe are very apprehensive about taking that first step into tertiary education. For many, it is daunting, it is anxious. They haven't had a great experience maybe in secondary school. Encourage them, support them to take that first step. By taking that step, they will develop the self-confidence through their success. And like you, they will be able to start to influence their own future and that of their family and closest friends. Do not stop being ambitious. Set your goals and set them high. No one has any right at all to challenge how high you set your goals. Whaia te hita kaharangi, ki te tuahu, koe mehe mona tete. When and if you have to bow your head, let it be to the loftiest peak. The second challenge that I'd like to make is, as a graduate, with the skills, the character, the values that you have, go out and be an active part, an active member of your society and your community. Be prepared to be the voice and to stand up for those who are less fortunate than you, may never follow your steps in tertiary, who are vulnerable, whether it's the poor, the homeless, the disabled, the needy, or those that are suffering in poverty. And it's a very sobering thought that in the past week we've had a report from OECD and a confirming report from our own Children's Commissioner that in New Zealand, the developed nation, so proud of its values, that we have 265,000 children living in or below poverty. You make up society. We all make up society. Have a voice for those people. Society is what we make it. Don't blame it on politicians or agencies. We are society. Steve Jobs, the chief executive of Apple, said to a graduation class in MIT, believe in yourself. Live your life, not what someone else thinks your life should be. And don't let the opinion of others drown out what your inner voice tells you. Have the courage, have the conviction, have the belief to go with what your heart says and what your intuition says. Stand up, make a difference. Kia kaha, kokoto koapapo. To our graduates, be strong, because you truly are our people of tomorrow. The karakia I opened with, ko te pai te whiti kia mau, ko te pai tata whakamau kia tina, said, as you seek your distant horizons through your future through new horizons, hold fast to the gifts that you have and build on them. Ngā mihi o te wā, ki here mete, mehe tō tau, hau. Have a wonderful Christmas and a successful and enjoyable New Year in 2014. Nō reira e homa, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I would just like to take this opportunity. This is the 6th of 6 graduations that we do in the space of 3 days. In order for you to graduate before the end of the year is an enormous ask of our academic and administrative staff. Made more difficult this year because we changed to a new student management system. So the fact that we've got you all through here by the end of this third day, I owe a huge debt of thanks to all the staff of Bay Plenty Polytechnic. Organising 6 events like this, with some 5,000 people coming through here in those 3 days, is also a huge logistical exercise. And I'd just like to recognise the staff who have been responsible for that, for each of those 6 graduations. Led by Maggie Hope, the Marketing Communications Manager. And they include Raiha, Beppy, Cressida, Lisa, Loretta, Meg, Scott, Jill, Kirsten and Valda. And a lot of the people that you have seen taking you to your seats, etc., and handing programs out are our student ambassadors. And I'd just like to recognise them. That's Ashley, Brooke, Cam, Esther, Hannah, Mark, Rebecca, Sam, Mint, Hannah and Lauren. And the singer of our national anthem, Anna Mann, I would like to acknowledge she has done a great job in each of those ceremonies. So with thanks to my staff for a wonderful job to get us to the culmination of these graduations, I now have great pleasure in handing over to the head of the School of Business Studies, Dr. David Lyon.